Hi guys, and welcome to the Neckpour. My name's Lewis, and this is the Whisky Review channel where I give you my thoughts and opinions on a particular bottle of whisky from the Neckpour all the way down to the dregs. And you join me here for one I'm super excited for, to find out what Johnnie Walker tastes like when it's presented to us the way it should be. This is 51% and I believe non-chill filtered Johnnie Walker, and I think it's going to be really exciting and certainly better than any black, double black, green, or even blue label that are selling for huge money. This was great value to me. It's something I'm really interested to get into. Before we go any further though, I would just like to say, please do drop me a like if you've enjoyed the content. Hit me with a comment below if you've tried this whiskey and have any thoughts, or there's anything you'd like to see me review. And if you've enjoyed the content enough to want to see some more, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you're informed next time I post. But yeah, this is the 200-year centenary bottling of Johnnie Walker. It was bottled in 2020, so it's a few years old now, and celebrating the opening of their shop in 1820. And yeah, as far as I know, it is the only Johnnie Walker product anywhere really that's stronger than sort of 45%. And it's also rumoured online to be non-chill filtered just because of the strength, but Diageo being Diageo, very scant on details about this. Comes in a lovely box with a kind of pull-out picture of the shop and some leafing, which is really nicely presented. And I'll show that a little bit up closer in the up-close shots I've taken of the bottle and stuff. And yeah, talks about being inspired by that old Highland blend and the way their whiskey used to be. And yeah, it's just really kind of old-fashioned, the bottle, which I really like. I think it's really actually quite a stylish bottle. And I think it might be a bottle I keep around. Might even consider moving my Infinity bottle over to it, because I do think a screw cap is pretty sensible for that. But yeah, before we go any further, I think it's time to get this open and pour ourselves a little drop. I would say let's listen to the cork on this, but it is a screw top, so there's no need for that. But yeah, let's get this open and see what we think. Nice healthy little measure there. All of the neck gone. And yeah, they talk about being inspired by their original old Highland whiskey. So I wonder whether it is a majority of just Highland whiskies in there. And again, they talk about it only being from distilleries that were open at the time that they started blending whiskey. It's inspired by the flavours found in the stock books from the grocery store in the 1860s and uses whiskey from distilleries that were operating at that time. It doesn't say only whiskies that were operating at that time. And again, they just say Highland quite a few places all over this. So I wonder if it is just Highland malts that have gone into this, or whether it's kind of the full range. But having a look at it, I can't really comment on the colour, because it does say on the back, Mit Farbstoff Zucker colour, which, as this is a bottle that was imported all over the world, or exported all over the world, and for anything that's sold in Germany, you have to state it contains caramel colouring, and that is what that means. So the colour, it's a nice kind of coppery kind of colour, but it contains caramel, so that's kind of a little bit beside the point. Again, it looks nice and leggy for a Johnnie Walker. I'm not used to having that kind of behaviour, which is, yeah, I'm actually really excited. But yeah, let's get the nose in and have a little smell. So this is non-age stated, and I don't think it says anywhere on it that it's a malt whiskey. So I'm assuming this also contains grain, as whiskey at the time would have been. Yeah, and it just blended Scotch on the front, so it certainly contains grain. and it's a bit of a youthful grain prickle on the nose. But I do also think that gives a good kind of character to these sort of blends. Again, there's lots of pear on the nose, I would say, specifically. And with that slight kind of prickle, almost leans into a kind of pear drop. And also I'd say a kind of cherry on the nose. Distinct lack of peat, though, which is interesting. Because, you know, Kalila is such a backbone of so many Johnnie Walker releases and other Diageo releases. But no, that's a really intriguing nose. And it's the kind of nose that only comes from a blend, you know. It's reasonably harmonious, but you're getting kind of little bits from kind of all over the spectrum. And it's just how well blended this was to see how much we pick up. But yeah, let's get a little taste of this. That's super sweet. Almost alarmingly so, actually. The first sensation I got was like a honey sort of throughout the mouth, but not the kind of thick, sticky honey, like a honey when it's been heated up. So it was a little bit thinner and just kind of super concentrated. But yeah, to finish, there's a lovely sort of oakiness, there's a peppery spiciness, and there's a kind of almost concentrated honey, like an essence of honey, that leaves a big, sweet sort of finish in the mouth, which is just, it's just really good, you know? And I am going to try it with a little bit of water now, see what we think. Because it is strong enough that it can handle a few drops. So we'll give that a few seconds to sort of incorporate, see what it brings out. But yeah, I picked this bottle up at auction from Scotch Whisky Auctions. To the door, I picked it up with another blend, which I'll be doing a Neckpour of in the coming weeks and months. I'm a bit whiskey rich at the moment. I've done quite well for myself, won a couple of bottles, been gifted a couple of bottles, and in a few weeks we're going up to Scotland for 10 days. So I thought I might come back with a few bottles then. So there might be some things that are sitting a little while before they actually get cracked open and reviewed, because there's only so much whiskey one man can drink in a week. And of course, please do be sensible with your drinking. But yeah, this was with another bottle, so the shipping is kind of a bit reduced on both of them, but was just over 36 quid to the door. And almost for curiosity's sake, I couldn't say no to it, just to see what Johnnie Walker can be like and what Johnnie Walker probably should be like. Because if that's what Black Label tasted like, I'd go through a lot of it. That's for sure. But I mean, this is now 5 years old. It spent 5 years in glass, and stocks must be dwindling. Although I know they must have made a huge amount of this. And depending on when it came out in 2020, if it was after sort of COVID had started and the whiskey boom was just taking off, I mean, there might be investors that are sat on huge stocks of this that are trying to offload them. And yeah, I'll be certainly interested to see another one of these at a good price, because that's just a really good sipping whiskey. But yeah, let's have a little smell now it's had the water added. To me, that's a lot kind of more grainy and a lot younger on the nose. It's certainly not improved the nose. And it almost smells more manufactured, fake, chemical. I don't know how quite to describe it, but that sort of not quite real kind of smell. But it's still not unpleasant. I've still drunk much worse whiskies than that on the nose. It's just, I think it was better before the water was added, that's for sure. But I mean, really, when you're adding water, you should be waiting more than 2 minutes. You should be waiting 10, 15 minutes before you go into it. But no, it's getting better the more I smell it, I have to say. Wow, okay. That sweetness is elevated even further, actually, with a bit of water. And those kind of fresh fruits give way to jam and a lot more kind of those sherry flavors coming through, those sherry spices, the, baking spices, stewed fruits, jams, things like that. And then the finish is not hugely changed, actually. It's still silky, warming, little bit oaky. There's almost a little hint of a kind of sherry astringency coming through there, a bit of tannin from the oak. And yeah, overall, I'm really happy with that. And I think at some point I'm going to have to do a bit of a bottle battle and put this up against a bottle of Black Label, because that's the Johnnie Walker I drink on a kind of semi-regular basis. I've never really understood the hype around Green Label. Maybe before my time, it used to be great. And Blue Label, I'm not spending that much money for a 40% chill filtered coloured whiskey. I just don't think it's going to be that good, Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm missing out, but it's never appealed to me. But, in the £30 region, I think that is an absolute banger, really. I mean, it's not a kind of one I'll be rushing back to and I'll pay anything to get another bottle of. But again, if that comes up at a kind of reasonable price, that's a great whiskey to have to drink with friends. And some of my kind of whiskey friends, it'll be interesting to try it with them and see what their opinion is on Johnnie Walker, the way that I would prefer it to be, and see whether they agree or whether they prefer it as it is. And I think that's interesting, because taste is subjective, and what I think is better might not be what someone else thinks better, But before I carry on waffling on with this one, I think we'll leave it there. I'd just like to say thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. And if you have enjoyed this video, please do hit the like button below. Drop me a comment if you've got any thoughts on this bottle, Johnnie Walker as a brand in general, or if there's anything you'd like to see me try and review. And if you've really enjoyed it and want to see something more, please do hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you're notified next time I post. It really does mean a lot to me. But other than that, I'd just like to say thank you so much for joining me here today. And I'll see you next time. But until then, cheers, sláinte, and I'll see you again.